Welcome to another episode of One with Mitch Lafon. I am your host, Mitch Lafon. Joining me this week from Seether, JOHN HUMPHREY, and from Hellyeah, Kyle Sanders. And to talk about all of these guys and more is Joel Hoekstra, or Hoekstra. Oh, did I get that wrong again?
you got it right the first time, actually.
Woo!
Hoekstra, that.
There
nice
you go.
Job out of the gate there. I know it's a difficult one, dude. I should have had a stage name years ago, but I just never pulled the trigger. So here I am.
There you are. Yeah, no, listen, I kid you with that, but I do apologize. It's one of those names that I get wrong. But more importantly,
it's a way of life for me. It's a way of life. I'm quite used to it, my friend. All good.
But more importantly, you just finished a tour with Trans-Siberian Orchestra. So just before we get to John and to Kyle, just tell me about how was the run? Did it go well? Were there any strange stories? Are you planning more? How did that go?
I don't know if there was necessarily any strange stories. That tour is it's a great thing to be a part of. It's just the top class production. Paul O'Neill just really goes all out to give the fans their money's worth. I'm honored to be a part of it. I think out east we did 62 shows in basically between November 13 and January 4. So you're doing 8 a week. And I can't really think of anything else filling 2 arena shows a day at this point. So it's really a great opportunity for me to cut my teeth in terms of like playing on a big stage for large audiences, and a lot of it you're just on an acoustic guitar with a singer, so that's a unique experience too, to be playing a guitar basically by yourself for 10,000-15,000 people at a clip, and it's a good character builder, so to say, and it's been really great for me, man. I made a lot of new fans, and it's really like the crew is awesome. You're out there with like top-notch people, like from A to Z. So great tour to be part of.
When you're doing that many shows, 8 shows a week, physically, because you're just using your fingers and stuff. Do you start getting cramps? Do you start getting pain in the shoulder, or is it like, nah, man, it's just warm up? It just warms you up.
You get a little physically beat up from having the guitar on the whole time, but I wouldn't say necessarily the fingers, because I think a lot of people do think of Trans-Siberian as a gig where you're shredding the whole time, but it's not really like that. There are songs that are very much about the vocals, and so you're just kind of playing slow hand a decent chunk of the time too. So it's all good though. All of it is great for your playing. I personally wouldn't want to do a gig I was playing 9 million miles an hour for 2.5 hours. I'm a song guy first and foremost, so I love that about it, that there's great songs, and the production itself is just totally like insane. For those that haven't seen it, just pyro, lasers. It's really, I can't think of anything else that rivals it. It's like on par with like The Wall or something on that level.
Oh, it's a fantastic show. I've seen it used to come to Montreal regularly. It hasn't come recently, but it was always a great Christmas present. Just you had to go see that. The other show you're involved with, Rock of Ages on Broadway, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, after a 6-year run, is coming to an end at the end of January. I guess that's sort of bittersweet for you, and in one sense, great run, 6 years. On the other end, it's moving on.
It's fine. Yeah. It's been a great run, man. It feels like a very long time though that I've been doing it. I think to play a show for 6+ years, and to put it in perspective for people at 8 shows a week when I've been home, which I think I usually end up between missing it all the time I was with Night Ranger or now with Whitesnake, and of course the Trans-Siberian tours every November, December. I think I've still been making about 70% of those Rock of Ages shows. So
wow.
I'm well over playing the show 2,000 times at this point. I've got to be somewhere around 2,500 times or something to that effect, which is just like, it's a lot to wrap your head around. So I'll definitely miss having the absolute steadiness of the work, having something every day. I don't necessarily know that it's the best thing for me as a player at this point to be playing the show like every single day. I have lots of really great opportunities that I actually didn't have time for.
Right.
While I was devoting time to the show. So it's all good. One way or another, my philosophy is always to stay productive and to be moving forward. So that's going to obviously continue on. So
yeah. Now, before we get to our first interview with John Humphrey of Seether, just quickly, Whitesnake, you're going to have a lot of time for that. So where are we? The last time we spoke, I think you had said the album was finished but hadn't been mixed. Now we're like 3 months later. How are we progressing with the Whitesnake?
Well, my tracks were done, I think, when we spoke. I don't know if everybody was necessarily done with the tracking, but yeah, we're heavily into mix mode. I'm probably going to head out to David's in a little while here coming up and just kind of go through, be a part of it and put my 2 cents in on any tweaks and things like that. And I know Reb is going to be in there too. So very excited about that. And yeah, anything I've heard or seen, it's awesome. I think people are going to be very excited to hear the album. So I'm definitely like totally pleased and can't wait for everyone to hear it.
So Seether, John Humphrey. You have any? Are you a Seether fan? Do you know the band? Sort of, what's your relationship?
Well, number one, I want to thank you for actually forcing me to be relevant here and and kind of get with it, because honestly, over the last, with Rock of Ages and TSO and playing in a band on any days I wasn't there, I've really been, honestly, if I include sessions, I've been at about 400 shows a year. So my listening time has been like slim to none. And but I will tell you that I run across things in terms of when I'm actually working or going about my daily life. And as luck would have it, you asked me to do this, and I am familiar with Seether because while recording the couple albums with Night Ranger, Brad Gillis and I would listen to Seether going back and forth all the time out to Jack Blades. They're actually Brad's favorite band. And so he would always have Seether on in his car. And I was always really like, dude, put on Seether again. They're great. And they're just, number one, a great band. And they don't sound like they're just trying to write hits, so to speak. But I love that they write hooky stuff. Their stuff is engineered really fantastically and produced really well. It's not just flatlining the whole time. There's lots of dynamics. It's really brilliant stuff. And it's a great band and great songs. And we were lucky enough to cross paths with them while I was still with Night Ranger too at Sirius XM while we were both doing press. And it was really funny. They were doing an acoustic set in the middle of Sirius XM, and we were kind of doing the thing where you bounce around from studio to studio. And Brad kept kind of poking his head in. It was really funny to watch Brad Gillis be like a teenage boy over the fact that Seether was there. He was really excited.
That's fantastic.
And but they're an awesome band. And you having me do this and this talk up really got me online the last couple of days, checking them out and getting my Seether knowledge up as I got big shoes to fill with you, or not fill, but you're difficult to keep up with. Your research is like second to none.
Thanks.
Going in on your interviews. So I thought, man, I better check out some Seether stuff. And I'll tell you what, as the more you dig in on this band, the more you dig them. And it's just like, all the stuff off Isolate and Medicate sounds like totally killer. And I hadn't actually heard the single that Words as Weapons, but obviously I'm like the only one. That video's got like 3.6 million views, I think, or something like that.
No, but it's an amazing band because when you think of rock band, you hear the names Motley Crue and you hear U2 and you hear all that, and Seether doesn't come up in the conversation a lot, at least in folks that are a little bit older. But then you look at their Billboard charted album was number 4 this year. They've got Brendan O'Brien, who does the AC/DC stuff, producing them. Like you said, their videos has 3, 4, 5, sometimes 19 million views, and you go, wow.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing.
I've known that they're very popular. It's just that I am totally uncool, and I just never know what the heck is happening at any time. And it was just fantastic for me to dig in and realize these guys are just like a serious kick-ass rock band. And like I said, Brad really turned me on to them, and we would check them out. And And when you say, what do you want to listen to? Pretty much my answer every time was Seether. Put on that Seether again. That stuff's great, man.
Yeah. And you know, I was just going to say the other connection with Night Ranger is John used to be in a band called the Nixons, and on their latest Sting album in 2000, they had Jack Blades come out and write with them. So we've got this sort of Seether, Nixons, John Humphreys, Night Ranger thing going on, which I think is kind of cool.
The 6 degrees of separation, so to speak. Yeah, I was totally unaware of that. But, John seems like... am I supposed to acknowledge the fact that I've already sort of heard your...
Oh, yeah, go ahead. I let you listen to the interview, so...
In listening to the interview with John, I mean, he just seems like he's got his head on straight.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing everything they can to keep the band intact as far as pacing their touring and doing it the right way with runs. But I love the fact he talked about putting ego aside and working with producers, his attitude towards that. And he just seems like he's got his head on straight. And because I also, in YouTubing, I checked out some of his drum solos, and the dude's got chops, man. I mean, he could really go after like whatever he wants to go after. But he's just got it all set aside to do what's best for the band and make the best songs for the fans. And you got to admire guys like that. He seemed like he was really grounded and has a great attitude.
Oh, and he's so incredibly nice. I mean, sometimes when you do interviews, it's a publicist who pitches you something. Hey, Mitch, want to talk to this guy or that guy? But it's not like that with John. You know, I had this tribute CD to Kiss a couple of years ago that I put together for a palliative care home. John was right on there. Hey, I'll get a track on there. And when it came time to do the podcast, he's like, hey, we're going on tour with Papa Roach. You want to do something? Like, he's just always there. He's always nice. He's always on his game. He's just one in a million, quite frankly. He really just one in a million.
Yeah, he seems like a great dude, man. I have to say, I was really, really impressed with the interview and everything he said. And it does actually sound like a killer build. And going out with Papa Roach
really does.
I'd imagine that'll do really well. Those are two bands that fit well together and both kick ass. So
yeah. Right now it's only a 6-week run. Hopefully, it'll be extended through the year. So you know what? Why don't we listen to the interview with John Humphrey of Seether, and then we'll come back and we'll talk a little bit about Kyle Sanders and Hellyeah. They're on the Blood for Blood tour, based on the Blood for Blood album that came out in 2014. So Joel, what do you say? Here's John.
Good day to you. Happy New Year.
Absolutely. Happy New Year to you. It's a big New Year for you because you're starting right off in the first couple of weeks with this major tour with Papa Roach. So why don't we just start there? Tell me about, getting that package together, what it means to tour with Papa Roach, what it just means to tour to you. I mean, you have this highly successful album, Isolate and Medicate. Let's start with the tour.
I'm really looking forward to it. I know we all are. We've done a lot of shows before and festivals. We're always running into our friends in Papa Roach. I think they're a great band, and I think it's a great matchup, man. I think for the price of a concert ticket, you're getting 2 headlining shows and sort of the best of each band. These are 2 bands that have a little history and have been together, 10 years plus each individually. So you're talking about a lot of songs, within that hour 15, and I think it's a great lineup. It's funny, Jacoby called and left a message, I don't know, back in late summer or so, with the startings of this idea, like, pass along to the guys, man. I mean, we'll be available, and I think you guys are open, and let's get together. And sure enough, the powers that be kind of had a meeting and worked all the logistics out, if you will, and now we're finally getting it together to do this tour. So it's really looking good, and I think it's going to be a great month of January.
Is it? Has it become difficult for bands to go headline by themselves? Are co-headlines sort of the thing, the wave of the future, or is it just, hey, let's just give the fans the best?
Yeah, I think it really is give the fans the best. I think it makes sense, and again, instead of I think both of us individually, the bands could go off and do their own headlining tours. but I think bring us together. I think we have a lot of similar fan base, or if not, hopefully, our attitude has still been the way it was when we started. Papa Roach fans come out to check out Papa Roach. Well, we're going to try to win some new fans there, and I know Papa Roach, man, they're going to, no holds barred, show no mercy kind of show. Jacoby's a great front man, and he'll be out there kicking ass and putting on a good show. So I think they'll help spur us on to up our game. I think it's a great show and a good thing for the fans.
Yeah, it really is. The tour ends February 7th, so it's reasonably a short run. Is this sort of part one, or is this it?
It's funny, you're not the first one to ask that, and as of now, I don't know if anything is concrete. A lot of people have asked, is this tour going to go to Europe or maybe overseas or continue on, maybe another run in some of the B markets, or if you will. Mm-hmm. So I think it's just the beginning, I hope. I mean, I love these guys, and I know we both work together well. I think this tour is going to do really well, and even before the first show, we're already getting questions like that. I mean, will you be extending it or taking it overseas? So who knows what will come in the future? Nothing concrete right now, but you never know.
I certainly hope so. So let's get to Isolate and Medicate. Let's start with Brendan O'Brien, the producer. He has done some incredible stuff. He's been Black Ice AC/DC, the new AC/DC. He's played with Black Crowes, Georgia Satellites. He's produced Killswitch Engage, Billy. I mean, just everywhere. First of all, tell me about what it's like working with Brendan, and why did you choose Brendan?
Like you ran that list down. I mean, his track record speaks for itself. I mean, he's an amazing talent, and a lot of guys, carry the moniker producer, but he truly is a producer. He's a musician. If he has input, which he does on arrangement or how a song is put together, he can sit down at a piano or pick up a guitar, or hell, he can even sit down at the drums in my case and show you what he's talking about or any suggestion. Some producers will be, I don't know what you're doing there, but just do something different.
Right.
What the hell does that mean? He can really speak, on our level and really understands. He's a musician, as you have said there. He's toured with Neil Young. I mean, played keyboards with Neil Young. I mean, he is amazing. And I remember this is the second album he has done with us.
Right.
He did Holding On to Strings with us as well. Mm-hmm. And I remember Sean calling me, it might have been Christmas '09, to say he had a meeting with Brendan, and you're not going to believe this, he's going to produce our next album. And I mean, that would have been, or was, a dream of ours to always work with, a serious rock producer on his level. I mean, it's pretty awesome. Brendan O'Brien, I mean, to me, he's up there. And I remember I was so nervous meeting him for the first time, and I didn't want to screw up, didn't want to suck, and he came in, made you feel really relaxed. And on this latest album, I mean, we had learned so much working with him before, had come to expect maybe what he was looking for in a song, questions he might ask, sort of anticipate that. And so the demos, we did a lot of work on them, a lot of pre-production before we went into the studio. So this album was recorded really fast, man. We did it maybe top to bottom in 2.5 weeks.
Wow.
I mean, it was quick. I mean, before bands spend 2 months doing albums, and we went in and knocked it out, and I chalked that up to a lot of the learning experience from the first time around with Brendan. He's a professional. He's passionate. He gets in there, and his work ethic, he won't stop for hours, and he's serious about every band. He's not just getting a check and going on to the next thing. He really cares and gets involved with each project he's involved with. A lot of producers come in and leave it up to the engineer. Well, that sounds pretty good. I'm going to head on to lunch and I'll be back. He's there all the time, running the board, making suggestions, tweaking things, working with Sean, with the vocals and melodies and harmonies and stuff. And he's awesome, man. He's the real deal.
Is there a danger going back to the same producer on back-to-back albums? Is there a point where you go, oh, this is going to start sounding too much the same? Or is it actually more reassuring that you've got a guy who sort of already understands the band, and now we can go from point A to point B because we know what to expect from each other?
Yeah, I think he really has a way. If you talk and list those albums,
Right.
AC/DC against Neil Young, against Pearl Jam.
Yeah.
None
Bob
of those
Dylan.
bands sound the same. Yeah, Bob Dylan. None of those bands, Bruce Springsteen, none of those bands sound the same.
Right.
He has this real knack for a band doing its thing, bringing in amps or guitars that the guys are used to using on stage. He lets a band be. So many producers have their sound. They bring in only the amps they always work with. They only work in this one studio where the drums are set up in the exact corner where they get the sound for all their albums. And Brendan isn't like that.
Right.
Brendan really lets things sort of organically be. He lets a band be who they are, only maybe helps us maybe realize that vision and be that sort of outside opinion or on the outside looking in, something we can't see that he kind of helps us to kind of fully realize when we're putting together a song or an entire album. And I think that's a rarity for a producer to cross these genres and different artists, and then each art sounds like themselves, and each one is, he doesn't have that sort of cliche sound, and again, I think he truly is a producer in that sense.
Right. Now, Seether, you're not rookies. You've been around for over a dozen years. Why not produce your own albums? Why not just say, hey, we know what we're doing. We're a successful band. We tour. We make albums. Let's just produce this ourselves.
Well, we've definitely talked about that as well. We're now with the new label.
Right.
We were with Wind Up for years, and we were sold, I guess, in fact, with Evanescence and the Creed catalog, Alter Bridge, to Concord Bicycle. And they're a great label. I mean, this was, unknown to us. We just kind of were called one day, hey, by the way, you're not with Wind Up anymore. We're like, oh, shit, what's going on, We're really apprehensive. We didn't know about the label. The label has a lot of heritage artists, if you will. I mean,
right.
Ray Charles, a lot of jazz artists, not too many rock. And those bands that I just listed from Wind Up, out of those bands, we're the only band currently touring, working, and making new albums. But they were excited. They wanted us to get to work right away. We had already, begun work on what was to be the next album. They're like, yeah, you still have the green light from us. Let's go in the studio. And they didn't send down this jackass A&R guy who was in the way and a pain in the butt. They really let us do what we do and let us work with Brendan again and fully trusted our relationship, and we would turn out a quality product. And so now, having said that, I think working with a label that has that trust in what we're doing, I think we are, in some aspects, very capable of producing our own album. I think that's something we'd love to do. We did the Seether cover, the Veruca Salt cover song, and we produced that ourselves. Careless Whisper, we produced ourselves, really. Of course, those are cover songs, but, we sort of transposed them into our style. And
but is there a danger producing your own albums? I mean, does it become so self-indulgent that you can't sort of see your way out of it and it just ends up being a mess? Or can a band actually produce an album and get something great out of it?
That's a great question. I mean, I'm open-minded. I mean, I always tell a lot of young musicians, what advice can you give us coming into the business? And that's to put away the ego. I really have no problem working with a producer as long as I fully trust, his experience,
right.
And in this case, Brendan. And I really appreciate the outside opinion, and maybe they're giving input to something we aren't seeing or a suggestion maybe we wouldn't have had. So I totally, I kind of like having that safety valve there, and
right.
and that is a great thing. But at the same time, I think we've made a lot of records, and we've been in the studio, and we aren't green, and I'd like to see what we could do. And like I said, the demos, and having worked with Brendan, they went through, little to no change from demo form to the recorded album that you hear now.
Right.
And that was the first time that happened. And so I fully trust we probably could do it, and maybe in the future that will happen as well. But if Brendan's on the next album, that's great. I love Brendan too.
Well, let's hope he keeps it up. He'll split his time between AC/DC and Seether. That's not a bad gig, right?
Hey,
now.
I mean, what happened to the bragging rights on that? We got the guy who's producing AC/DC, and he's a good, not only producer but a good friend as well.
Now you should just call Brendan and see if he can get you the opening slot on AC/DC's summer tour. That would be the real kicker.
That would be awesome.
You mentioned the word Heritage Act. Listen, the band's been around a long time. You've had a lot of songs, a lot of singles, a lot of tours. Is there a point in making a new album? Can you not just go play the clubs and play your 15 best songs and still get X amount of fans to show up?
I'm sure. I'm sure we could just sit back and probably. We have more than a show's worth of just singles alone.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't include, deep cuts. Just to play all the singles, all the songs people are familiar with, or maybe have waited 2 years to hear when they come out. You've got to play those songs, and yeah, we I'm very grateful. I always say it, man, to be a rock band and to have been around this long, to still be here, and to have that catalog that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But we do this for us. We really do. We make the music that we want to do. We don't really chase trends. We have never been the hit band. We're not a hit band by any means. And we just make music and the songs that we like. We kind of look to each other and like, is this cool? Man, this is all, or maybe we should go on to something else or what have you. And we, for our sanity, we got to be creative too. And Sean has to have that outlet as a songwriter. And I think making new albums, recording new music, I think it's great, and it's a healthy thing, and you need to have that.
Yeah.
And heritage artists, as we all know, a lot of them are making new albums again and having success with that. And I think that's part of being an artist, man. You got to be able to have that creative outlet, because the road you can get into a rut. You know what I mean? You're just you're kind of out there doing the song. Not that we go through the motions, but the road, you're away from your family, you're gone for a long time, you kind of live in this bubble, and that can kind of get to your head after a time. So it's nice to work on new music, play new stuff, and kind of take a break from that.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, because the tour that you're going out with Papa Roach is reasonably short. It's about 6 weeks. Is there sort of a number of weeks that you can go out before you have to pull? I mean, is that sort of the perfect number, 6 weeks, and then go home and relax and then get back out?
Yeah, I think that's actually pretty good. I think anywhere between 6 to 8 weeks is a good run. Anything longer, you're probably looking at choking each other or something. I don't know, but yeah, I think that's a perfect run. And I love the questions like you mentioned. Is this going to continue? Will there be another leg to the tour? Who's to say? But I think this is a good.
But you got to break it
solid
up.
Run. I think this is a good solid run, and perfect timing. I think 6 weeks is just right.
Yeah, because I look back, at bands in the old days like Bon Jovi that did 2.5 years on New Jersey, Metallica 2 and some years on the Black Album, Guns N' Roses, Use Your Illusion 2 years, and at the end of those extended runs, all three of those bands went into these moments of complete disillusionment, didn't know what they were doing, all essentially had broken up before reconvening or not reconvening in Guns N' Roses' case.
Yeah.
It just seems that you can't do that anymore. The 2.5 year runs, I think, are gone. It's a thing of the past.
Yeah. Though, we've talked before, the bands we grew up with, they were churning out 2 albums a year, working every 6 months and putting out a new album. I think it's the norm that there'll be 2 or 3 years between albums. Though we do go home for breaks. This tour will be, nothing less than 18 months.
Wow.
We've been to Europe last summer. We just did a headline run, and we'll probably go back again this summer.
Yeah.
So there'll be, even though breakups in between these runs, these legs, we'll tour for 18 months plus. But yeah, you got to have those breaks in there. That nonstop, you're gone from home for months on end. The mind can only take so much, and it's not healthy for a band. You don't want to have this success and have the band wanting to break up at the same time. You got to have those breaks in there. But with those breaks and wisely done, I think we can tour on album for 1.5 to 2 years.
As it should be. Now, I do want to talk to you about a band we both love, Kiss, and I do want to talk to you about your old band, the Nixons, but I have one more question about Isolate and Medicate. Album hit the Billboard charts, went all the way up to number 4. Does that matter anymore? Does it mean anything, the Billboard charts? Do you get excited at that it's number 4? Or is it sort of like, yeah, well, okay, whatever?
No, I think it's still cool, man.
Okay.
I still get excited when I hear us on the radio. When I'm at home here, in Oklahoma City, and I'm hearing us on the radio on a radio station I grew up listening to. No, I think it's cool, man. It's a real reassurance to know that a lot of people are still liking what we're doing and they still care. So no, I think it's great to see it debuting in the top 10 in this day and age, especially a rock band, a true guitar-driven rock band. To be up there. No, it means a lot. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, and I thought it was awesome too. Just the fact that after all these years, you're still able to excite a fan base enough to mobilize them to go buy an album, because a lot of bands, including Kiss, that we both like, can't seem to do that anymore.
Right.
The top 10 for a lot of those bands just doesn't exist, which is a shame. But
Yeah. Yeah.
Words as a Weapon was the first single. Again, went straight up to the top of the charts. It was supposed to be on your Seether 2002-2013 compilation album. You said, no, it's so good we can't have this as a throwaway track.
Yeah.
Was that sort of the beginning for the new album? Did you just do this song for the compilation and say, oh, we've got something here, forget it, let's get into the studio? Or was the album sort of planned anyway?
Well, no, we didn't begin work then on what was to become Isolate and Medicate until about 5 or 6 months later. But we had done, like you mentioned, the 4 songs, new songs for that sort of best of compilation, and we felt that it was new. It was something fresh, that it was kind of a new sound for us when Brendan kind of put some things and changed it a bit and made it, that was a song that really evolved from the demo. That a lot of changes from the original version, and we thought it was so unique and special, and it really set the bar for the new album.
Right.
I mean, to have that song already in the can and know that, okay, that we're starting, that's the starting point. I mean, it was a great incentive. So we sort of swapped that out, went back into a studio in New Hampshire and recorded the Veruca Salt, Can't Fight the Seether, the cover,
right,
our namesake, and replaced it with that. So it was kind of a cool thing, and we definitely knew we had that, and we're starting there. So everything's got to be that level and plus,
Yeah, it would have been a shame for it to be sort of and I use the word throwaway track, not out of disrespect, but that's sort of what those are called on best of compilations, right?
Yeah, and there was a lot of that too. Sean was, very adamant, like, be ashamed to have, I think this could be a single and represent the new record, and that was also absolutely a deciding factor.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of to me, one of your greatest songs. I just think it hits the mark. It's a great song.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's do this. Kiss.
Always.
You worked or you laid down the drums on the Eric Carr compilation that his sister put together, Unfinished Business.
Yeah.
I got to borrow that song, Eyes of Love, for this A World with Heroes Kiss tribute.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, that was awesome.
Which raised over $30,000 for this palliative care home in Vaudreuil, Quebec, which is where my wife's father passed away. So thank you, by the way.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Absolutely awesome. And of course, it's up on iTunes, and money still goes in, and the money still goes to the palliative care home. So it's a beautiful thing. It's a never-ending gift.
That's right.
Why did you want to be involved with the Eric Carr thing? Or what does Eric Carr mean to you? What does the band mean to you?
Oh, man, I mean, it's so much to me. I mean, it was the band made me want to do this. I mean, it really was. And I kind of was on that borderline age. I missed the original lineup, though. The first thing I had were like the trading cards, the baseball cards, and seeing the band. I did the whole thing. I saw the movie on TV when I was a kid, and was infatuated, but a little too young. My mom was like, "We're not going to go see them in concert." And I had friends. I remember vividly, 4th grade, coming through the Dynasty tour. That I had a couple friends that would went, but my mom wouldn't. So my first show was the Creatures tour.
Wow.
And Wendy O. Williams opening, and that was awesome. And that, had a huge impact on me. And who's on drums? Eric Carr. And, of course, all through the 80s, I was going to those shows and seeing Eric Carr. And I thought he was awesome. You know, he was the Fox. He was a great drummer. Me and my son, my 15-year-old son, who now is playing drums too, we were listening to Lick It Up. He's in there working on songs from Creatures of the Night. I mean, he loves Eric too. Great drums. Great drummer. And so when Loretta contacted me and said, you know, we have this track, you know, we could put drums on it. Would you do it? I mean, before she could even finish the question, I'm like, yes, you know, send me the tracks. I'll get on work on it. Okay, well, I'll you know, send them overnight. Let's go. You know, I was just so excited.
Yeah, you know, if Gene and Paul called you today and said, listen, we need a new drummer. We need you to put the Peter Criss makeup on, or the Catman. Sorry, I don't want to get into a political discussion. The Catman makeup on. Would you do it, or would you say, no, I have to be the Fox?
Oh, that's good. That's a great question. I don't know. If Gene and Paul called me, I would be nervous and so excited. I don't care. Come put on a giraffe outfit, and you want to play drums for Kiss? Yeah, I'll be right there. That's a great question. You know, it'd be great to do Eric as well. You know, that, like you said, it's a whole political debate in itself. You know, should it be somebody just putting on the makeup of this sort of iconic image, or should they come up with a character of their own? That's kind of tough. But hey, if it were, you know, honestly, a paying gig to come and put on the Catman makeup, I'd probably do it. I'd be a liar if I said no.
Yeah, you know what? And I think a lot of the fans that debate this and say that you shouldn't, I think if Gene and Paul called them and said, hey, we're going to give you X amount of hundreds of thousands of dollars a year on retainer to put on the makeup, every single one of them, including myself, we'd all say, yeah, okay, I'm in.
Yeah, I mean, there'd be no debate, right? It's great to sit back, you know, and
Monday morning quarterbacks.
What if? Yeah, exactly. And I don't, I'm not mad with what, you know, Eric Singer is doing. I mean, he's getting paid and getting paid well, and I don't blame him. I totally understand. I totally get it.
No, and he brings it to the stage every night. He can handle the Chris stuff. He can handle the Eric Carr stuff, and he can certainly do his own stuff. You know, the Revenge and others. He's perfectly fine. Let me move away from Kiss for a second and just talk about the Nixons. The band had a great buzz in the mid-'90s and disappeared probably too quickly. Tell me a little bit about the story of the Nixons. What went right? What went wrong? And would you ever be open to doing something with the guys again?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very proud of that band. We you know, like Seether, had a, you know, work ethic. That was the first band that you know, these guys really wanted to make something of themselves and wanted to be a success. And this was the true, you know, I hopped in a van with a bunch of guys, and we grew up here in our Southwest region building a fan base, you know, way before Facebook and even the internet. You know, we're playing these clubs and writing our own material and getting better at it, hopefully, and slowly building up this fan base, and put out this indie release that it was a big deal to sell 15,000 units just, you know, without the help of a major label. And doing this yourself, selling CDs at shows and putting them in mom and pop sort of record stores, and the whole story, getting signed from all that work and building that fan base and getting a record deal and the chance to do a major label album. I mean, you know, we slept on people's floors and worked hard to build that band from the ground up. And I'm proud of everything that band accomplished. It was definitely a learning lesson. I learned about charts and how songs, it spins, and, you know, how songs are detected, and you know, publishing and the ins and outs of the music business, and it definitely cut my teeth with that band. It definitely did go too fast. I don't know, we were all young and just all real ambitious guys. The singer, Zach Malloy, he's in Nashville now, very, you know, successful songwriter. We keep in touch, and then of course I'm doing Seether. He actually sent an email of a month or 2 months ago with the idea of, you know, would you entertain the possibility of the Nixons doing a new album? Us just sort of producing it, you know, here at my studio in Nashville. And I replied, absolutely. I think it'd be great, schedules pending, how we could work it out. I think between the four guys, me and Zach are probably the busiest, but if we could work that out, I'd totally entertain that. I think it'd be great. I'd love a chance to, work with those guys again, or even play those songs again on stage. I think it'd be great.
And it must be easier these days also to make an album because you don't physically have to all be in the same location. You can record stuff on your own little, rig at home and then sort of email it out. So it seems very doable. With Jesse and Ricky, you went on to form the band. Now, I've always said Hover, but it's Huver. Do you say Huver or was it Hover?
Yeah, it was Hover.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because, what happened there? I mean, why at that point did you say, okay, let's do this without Zach?
Yeah, at the time, I think we were just frustrated. The Nixons had worked so hard, and it was the classic thing of, we'd been in the bus, we had the major label deal, and then the band got dropped.
Right.
And we were back to a van, and, it was just, I think, mentally at the time. I don't know, looking back now, hopefully a bit more mature, I don't know that I would have jumped as quickly, maybe. But me and Jesse were just, we kind of had come to an end at that period with the band and felt that, I don't know, we needed to do something different. So it was almost an Alter Bridge type situation. We went back with the original bass player, Ricky Brooks, and a singer-songwriter that he had worked with, sort of managing another band, sort of a pet project of his, had suggested Garen Murdoch. And it was really cool. It sounded, if anyone had heard it, and people that have heard it really love it, it sounded nothing like the Nixons. It was sort of reinventing ourselves. And Garen was a super talented guy. And again, that was a really fast fuse too. We were within less than a year. We were getting radio play. This is without management in Dallas, and then we were showcasing in New York for some labels. And the timing just didn't work out for a record deal, and the singer had a family and some financial issues, and he needed he was offered a job out of state, and so unfortunately that sort of kind of came to an end. But
sadly,
it was some great music. I'm proud of that music. Some of the best that I've worked on, I think, over my career. I'm really proud of that music and as well.
Seeing that those songs didn't get the exposure that maybe they deserve, have you ever thought of bringing them to Seether and say, hey guys, let's try this?
That's great. I know Sean. I played a lot of it for Sean. He thinks it's some great stuff. We've had a couple of bands, not on a national or international level, that have I think re-recorded a song or two, but. I guess if ever comes opportunity, or Sean feels like, well, maybe we're in a writer's block, maybe he'd be open to that, and we could revisit that. But it was sort of a unique band, and the way that singer-songwriter worked, and sort of his vision, and those songs, I think, are documented, well.
And let me finish. I've got two last questions. Well, one is more just I want to throw that out there. Of course, the Nixons got to tour with Kiss, which must have been exciting for you.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh, man.
What tour was that? That was 98? Was that Psycho Circus?
No. This is the reunion. I mean, this was
you were on the reunion tour.
Oh, God. Yeah, I was on Cloud 9, right? This is summer of 96. And we were having a hit with the song Sister.
Okay.
And I had run into Doc McGee at the Sky Bar in Los Angeles. And I mean, literally, I had a drink with Doc McGee, and he was, this is before the tour had kicked off, and we were talking. He knew who the band was, and he was like, well, we'll watch the song, and you never know. But at that point, I think Stone Temple Pilots maybe were slotted to do the entire tour, or it wasn't, what it became, which is, they changed bands and up-and-coming bands every night on that tour. But anyway, the word came down, and we did 2 weeks, 6 shows over a 2-week period on the reunion tour.
Wow.
And I mean, yeah, this is only weeks into the tour. I mean, we did the last night of the 4 nights at Madison Square Garden.
Wow. Well, wait a minute. First of all, you getting to play Madison Square Garden,
Oh,
and then
yeah.
getting it to play with Kiss, that sort of built that place.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, for a Kiss fan, and then have your own band that's having success and play Madison Square Garden. So needless to say, my mom, who had put up with all those records and the Kiss, air guitar shows in the backyard, had to come. I flew my family up and to see that show. I mean, that was a special moment for me, and that was awesome. Madison Square Garden, Kiss, reunited, back in, costume and makeup. That was a great summer, man. I was on cloud nine.
Were you able to meet the band, or was it really like, no, they stuck to their corner of the arena, and the opening bands, leave us alone. We don't want to hear from you. We don't want to know you exist.
No, they were great.
Okay.
Gene and Peter came in first
Wow.
night of the tour and welcomed us to the tour, told us if we needed anything. I think Gene made a joke he came in with Peter and went, I'm Gene Simmons, and this is Paul Stanley, and Peter laughed or something because, we all knew that wasn't Paul, and Gene even, we had a table there, a craft service table set up with snacks and whatever dressing room stuff we had. And Gene's like, do you mind if I grab a couple of cookies? I mean, all that's just like photographed and etched in my memory forever, those sort of things. Ace was in our dressing room. This was another show, I forget where. And he was sitting on a couch in our dressing room with a plate of fruit in his lap, like the fruit tray. I walked in and he looked up and he goes, can I help you? And I went, no, man, you're fine. just to hang and welcome. You're welcome to anything. And he goes, wait a minute, this isn't our dressing room, is it? I went, no, it's ours, man. But you're welcome to hang out. Oh, and he's like, I'm sorry, and he puts the tray back down, and I'm like, oh, I wish you would hang. But great things like that. It was great.
If only iPhones existed, then all those pictures you would have been able to take.
Exactly.
I'm pretty sure I saw 11 reunion shows. I'm pretty sure I saw the Nixons on one of those. Did you do did you do Montreal or Quebec City or I'm trying to think?
No, we did. As I recall, we did Chicago.
No, didn't do that.
Dayton. We did Pittsburgh. We did Boston. We did Madison Square Garden. Boston Fleet Center was the last show. It was 6 shows over 2 weeks because they were doing multiple nights. And this is when the tour is just starting and they're selling out, boom, boom, boom. So, like, for instance, there were 2 shows in Chicago. We opened one night, and then we're switching. I think the Melvins were playing, and I'm trying to think of the other bands. 311, I think, were another band, alternating those nights. And we were one of those bands. Wow. And, it was awesome.
What an incredible thing. Yeah, on that tour, I got to see the Stone Temple Pilots. I got to see Stabbing Westward, Degeneration, just a bunch of...
Yeah, Degeneration. Yeah, that was the band.
That was one of the... we've done 35 minutes. I was going to ask you about working with Marty Fredriksen, who's become obviously one of the greatest pop rock writers. But, well, can you just give me a quick story about working with him on Latest Thing?
Well, actually, that album was produced by Stephen Hagler, and I know that...
But Marty did co-writes on that.
He did, and Zach, this was a situation, this was kind of a new world for us, again, a learning experience. We had written our own songs as a band, all the albums, and then finally is this new outside songwriter approach. So what happened is Zach, our singer, went and worked with... Jack Blades on a song. First
from Night Ranger, of course.
Yeah, which was the first single off that album. And he also worked with Marty on a song or 2. So I wasn't actually present at the writing session.
Right.
It was one of those things where we were frustrated, like, is the whole band going, to work on a song? This is all, no, just Zach's going. Well, okay. It was kind of new to us, though, working with outside songwriters. That was kind of the first. So I'm sorry I didn't get to work with Marty.
Yeah, I was going to actually ask if you had worked with him, because what I've always noticed from Marty, and he does great work, is that record companies call him in when they feel a band needs help writing a single, or they need to sweeten something up. And was that sort of one of the cases? And if it is there some resentment? Like, what do you mean we can't write our own single? You know?
I think initially, I mean, I understand the process. I know, you know, a lot of those guys can help out. Seether has written all their own music. We're pretty adamant. I think Wind Up threw that out a couple of times, but
Right.
That's nothing against Marty or the guys.
No, he does great work.
You know, this was a great introduction for Zach, and that's what Zach ended up doing. He is one of the, you know, our Marty Fredriksen now, and he's out there writing, or he comes in to help a band if they've sort of kind of hit a wall or what have you. So that opened a whole new world for him. But as a band that prided itself like on writing their own music, I mean, that was sort of a bitter pill. You know, you're like, wow, what do you mean these demos aren't good enough, or we're not turning out the music, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, a band kind of takes pride on the 3 or 4 guys that are in that band putting together the music, you know, and fortunately Seether has been able to maintain that. And I think a producer, I think their role is you know, in a lot of ways, Brendan, as we talked earlier,
right,
is great in that capacity, is, you know, opening our minds or changing things around as a songwriter would. So we definitely have, you know, a guy who has you can wear a lot of hats and make a lot of suggestions and changes for us in the producer role.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, listen, I've taken up 40 minutes of your time here on a Sunday morning, so
that's great. I love talking, man. Sorry,
yeah.
I get on them.
No.
Questions are great. I enjoyed it.
I could go for another hour, but you know, let's get to our Sundays and to our families and stuff.
You bet.
But always a pleasure, and hopefully, Seether will come back to Montreal soon, or hopefully I'll get to a city where you're playing soon, because it's a great show. It's great songs. You know, and when you've got Brendan O'Brien producing your albums, you know it's just great albums. So.
Yeah, it definitely helps with, you know, a lot of confidence that you need to go out there and fight the world, your band against the world, with your music and doing your thing. And he's a great guy to have in your corner, you know.
Absolutely. Thank you, John. Always a pleasure.
Thank you, Mitch.
Keep in touch. Let's do this again real soon. There you have it, folks. That was my interview with John Humphrey of the great band Seether, currently on tour with Papa Roach. Let's do a quick turnaround and get right into the next interview. We have got Kyle Sanders of Hellyeah talking about the Blood for Blood album and tour. And of course, Joel, you have sort of another 6th degree of separation going on here with Kyle.
Yeah, a little bit more of a stretch, but
right.
In doing my research of attempting to be relevant and learning a little bit about Kyle on your interview today, I learned that his brother is actually Troy from Mastodon. I went,
right.
Oh, okay. Well, actually, 2-3 years ago, Night Ranger actually played with Mastodon and Soundgarden at Sweden Rock Festival, and
hold on.
I got to.
You got to give the fans a second to digest that, because you've got Mastodon.
Yeah.
Soundgarden, and then
yeah.
Night. It's almost like playing Sesame Street and going, which one doesn't fit? But you know, at the end of the day,
no kidding, man.
It's all rock and roll.
You should have seen us leading into the gig, man, and backstage. I mean, we were like in a state of panic. The Night Ranger guys, we were all going, oh, what are the heaviest songs we got? What can we do? Thinking you got visions of guys chucking 9-volt batteries at you or whatever the stories are.
You're looking at Brad going, do you still know Crazy Train? Do you still know Crazy Train? Right?
You know, as it would turn out, the show was, we were really well received over there. And the European crowds are just so open-minded, and everything that Night Ranger brought that day went over really well. And the Mastodon guys were just gems backstage. I mean, they were just like great dudes. So I did get a chance to meet Troy there and say hello. And then when I started to do my research for your interview with Kyle today, I went, oh, okay, there you go. There's your 6 degrees of separation right there. So.
Yeah, you know, and by the way, you're right about those European festivals. When you get to North America, it's got to be all the grunge guys or all the Hair 80 guys or all the whatever dance groups. All, you know, you can't mix them up because that's not how it works here. But in Europe, you can get Night Ranger on the same bill as Venom or on the same bill as, you know, like a Soundgarden, like you just said. It's fantastic. And the crowds there, they just eat it up. I mean, they have festival season in Europe, for crying out loud. They love it.
Yeah. Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
absolutely. So let's not extend the show too long here. We don't want folks sitting here for 2 hours. Why don't we get right into Kyle talking about Hellyeah and of course the new Blood for Blood album and tour. Here's Kyle. Hellyeah is an established band with, of course, Vinnie Paul. Tell me a little bit about how it was coming into a band that was already established with already a musical vision set out.
I'll be honest with you, man. When I have a long history with Chad Gray,
right,
from previous bands, and actually my older band Blood Simple,
right,
Hellyeah actually went out on Hellyeah's first tour. Like I toured with Mudvayne in the past, so I knew like Hellyeah. Like he was talking about starting Hellyeah, and just like when it was in its beginning stages, and then I kind of saw it all come together, and I was kind of there when it was happening. I did the very first tour with Hellyeah, and then did a couple more tours after that. And then actually I had a band Monstro a couple years ago, and Hellyeah took us out.
That's right.
So like I got a long history with all of the guys, became really close. I knew Chad the best, of course, and then I knew Maxwell from Nothing Face Days, but not super well, and I didn't know Vinny that well originally, but then just all my touring history with these guys, I got to know them. So when it all came together, it really wasn't a new thing for me. I felt comfortable with them. They felt comfortable with me. It wasn't like the new guy in the band. On paper, it might have been that way, but just the history we all have together was kind of like everything just fell into place and it just felt right.
Yeah. So tell me then, the new album Blood for Blood, you didn't get to play on it. How do you see that album, and are you when you get to playing it live, do you plan on modifying any of the parts, or just sort of tell me about what do you think of the Blood on Blood album?
We've been I was talking to Tom and Chad originally, like about a year ago right now. We were talking in December when they were in the final stages of the record, and that's when they were starting to just start thinking about touring and reaching out to other musicians, and they had called me, so I knew what was going on with them in the studio. But they said it was basically the record was written and almost finished. It had some tweaks and the mix and all that. But the first thing I asked was like, well, just send me the record with, and they sent me a mix with like the bass up, so the bass was just louder with everything, so I could hear everything really well. So basically, I learned everything as it was, and then we've been touring. We started touring in April of this year, so the more we're playing the new music, the more, I mean, obviously I'm playing the songs the way they were played, but I'm putting my own style into it and just playing it a little bit differently, just to like put my signature on it. So it's not too far off of what was laid down, but every player is different with their own styles. So, and they gave me the freedom to do basically whatever I wanted. So that was it was awesome. It worked for me.
Yeah, now I want to go back to your earlier bands. Blood Simple was around from 2002 to 2008, and sort of just disappeared. There wasn't really a breakup per se; it just sort of seemed to stop to exist.
Right, exactly.
What happened with Blood Simple? What's the story behind that band? And will we see the band ever get back together and do something? Again?
I love like the more the Hellyeah is doing now, the more I'm out there. People are asking me that a lot, which makes me feel good because Blood Simple worked for a long time and toured a lot. Made a pretty good name for ourselves, and then basically a couple of members just kind of had some serious screwed up their personal lives,
right?
And needed to take it was just take a break from touring, which is fine, but in this genre of music, you can't just go away, especially at the stage Blood Simple is in. We couldn't just, we could take a few months off for the summer or whatever, but like a month turned into 2 months, and then the summer went by, and then the year went by. So then it was just obvious to me, like, we can't just go away for a year or more, right, or for indefinitely, and then just come back like nothing happened after all that we've built up. So there was never really an official breakup. And to be honest, I would love, like, Tim and Mike are doing some VOD stuff, kind of on the side, but still doing records and doing minimal touring. I would love to see something happen with us all again. There's no bad blood. Everyone, we all talk and don't see each other obviously very often, but it was just unfortunate kind of chain of events how it happened early '08. Our last tour was in Australia, which is a huge tour with like Korn and Biohazard, and it was just great, you know. And then all of a sudden, little did we know that last show in April '08 was the last show we would ever do. So it's kind of a depressing time, just realizing all the work we've done is just like, now what? Now what are we going to do? Or what am I going to do?
And talk to me a little bit about that. About, you know, there's a lot been said about the music industry is falling apart, and you can't get paid, and we don't know what to do. What was it like trying to get a band like Blood Simple up and running, and sort of what did you need to do to make it successful and give it longevity? What are some of the things?
I mean, that was the hard part in the end, because, you know, we all had our own personal lives and families, and we're out there doing great tours, and, you know, we made 2 records and had the potential to do another one. And then just the fact that you come home at the end of the day, or, you know, you're gone for 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 2 months, and you really, hopefully you just break even, you know. Sometimes you lose, but it was rare that we would come home with a chunk of change in our pocket to kind of relax and then go back out. We had to come back home, get right back to work, and make it happen, make ends meet. So that was extremely hard, which is another factor that played into it. I think we just got lucky with the tours that we did. We did all higher profile tours. We were playing in front of a lot of people. And it, just like anything else, like it is these days, it was just a slow build. It was constant baby steps to, you know, we just bought an RV, so we didn't have to rent things. Obviously, a bus was way out of the question just because of finances. So we just put our money into that, and then everyone was able to hit the road and just leave and go do what we were supposed to do. And, you know, that was the only way that we made it, because we didn't really have much radio play or anything. Right. We just had to be touring, which is why at the end, when we couldn't tour anymore, it's like, well, we can't be this kind of band and not tour.
Yeah, you know,
that was crucial.
It's funny that you mention radio play, because Hellyeah is now getting a lot of radio play with the song Moth.
Right.
How important is radio play to the success of the band? Because there's certainly been a lot of people saying radio is dead, you know, TV is dying, it's all YouTube now, it's all streaming.
Right.
But yet, you know, when you get a top 10 hit right away, you're like, hey, we're top 10 on radio. How important is radio to the success of the band, the current band?
I think it is tough, because, you know, I live in Atlanta, and there basically is no rock radio. You know, there's a classic rock radio, and there's like a new alternative rock or alternative radio. So Hellyeah's not getting played here. And looking at the map and the radio charts, it's very scattered. You know, but the people that or the towns that still have rock radio are full behind it, and they love it. And the fact that Hellyeah isn't like per se a radio band, it's pretty amazing that we're getting the kind of feedback and response that we are from Moth. So hopefully we can get to another song in the record.
Yeah.
So it's helping. It helps touring out a lot, because, you know, if radio gets behind you, then at least they're talking about you on the radio. And a lot of people, unlike myself, I don't really listen to like mainstream radio, but a lot of people, that's all they listen to. So if it's not on there, they don't know you exist. You know,
right.
The more hardcore fans that dig deep and they go find the YouTube videos of the old demos and the old live shows or whatever. So, you know, we're just working it to the best of our advantage, and I think it's definitely helping Hellyeah get to the next level, because they started out not as a radio band, and I still don't think we're a radio band, but we're on the radio. So
there you go.
Bring it on. No, I'm not complaining.
Blood Simple ends in 2008, and instead of joining a known band, you get together with some buddies and you put together Monstro. Why did you? Why the need to get into another new band and try all over again? And was that frustrating for you, knowing that you had some success with Blood Simple, and whoop, here we are back to square one, having to do the whole thing over?
It was extremely frustrating, and it was like I did a lot of soul searching. Like I just went, when that all happened, I just was kind of at the beach and stayed there, just staring out of the ocean. Like I can't, like, what am I going to do? All this work we've done to build to where we've gotten, you know, to where Blood Simple had gotten at that point. It was just a lot of work, you know, a lot of being gone, a lot of struggling, and just financially and everything. So I definitely weighed my options, and I mean, quitting wasn't an option, because I'm miserable when I'm not playing. And I kind of put the feelers out and was looking around, but I've never been a hired gun. I've always started the band or been in the band since the beginning. So it was hard for me just to like start looking out there, like basically looking for a gig and this kind of stuff. And that's when I was like, well, Bevan, who was my drummer towards the end of Blood Simple, we just started talking. I was like, let's just get together and just play and let out some frustrations. And then I found a guitar player here in Atlanta. And then we three got together and we just made music that was fun, and we're producing a lot of music in small amounts of time. So it felt good to be playing that way, but the whole thought of, man, starting over and getting in a van or whatever, it's like, I just can't do that again. But that was my only option, which was a big deal with Hellyeah, because when this all came about, I didn't feel like they were hiring me or I was just filling in. It was like they're my brothers for a long time, so it felt the way it's supposed to feel when you're playing with people, when just walking into a room full of strangers and nervous and trying to play right and play good. It just felt meant to be, which is why I had no question about it.
But you did mention that you like creating the stuff and being there on the ground level, and of course with Hellyeah, with Hellyeah you aren't, and so so be it. Do you look forward though? Are you itching to get into the studio with Hellyeah and actually have your bass and your voice and your sound, or is it like, listen, they got this new album, we'll tour it for 2 years, and that's the gig, and so what?
Absolutely, we've had many talks. Me and Tom Maxwell have talked in the back lounge. It's like, man, we can't wait to start writing, and our goal is to start writing on tour, which sounds like a great idea, but it's extremely difficult with different schedules and timing and being inspired and stuff. But that talk was from our initial conversations, like, this is what we want. We want you in the band, and we want you to be a part of the band. So it wasn't like, it's like, once again, I'm not like a hired guy coming in.
Right.
They want me in, and they're interested, and everyone's excited to start writing together again, which is great. We start thinking of ideas now on tour. So by the time we're done touring, hopefully we'll have a handful of solid ideas or songs, and then just, get together as a band and write music. So it's definitely going to happen, which makes me feel that much better about the decision to be with these guys.
Have you lost your desire though to want to make your own band? And would Hellyeah allow you to have a side project if you decided to put your own thing together?
Absolutely. And I had talks with Chad about that. I was like, well, what's up with Monster? Did you break up? I was like, no, we didn't really break up. We just, we kind of came to a standstill, and like everyone just kind of started doing their own things. So like if time allows, absolutely, I have the freedom to do anything, whether it be starting a side project or joining one or picking up Blood Simple again or Monster or whatever it is. So it's all the freedoms are there. Obviously, all the focus is on this right now, which we hope to be touring for another, year and a half.
Yeah.
And most likely won't take a break, get back in the studio and get going again. So it's, doing something else outside of Hellyeah isn't out of the question, but Hellyeah is the only focus right now. So just the fact knowing that is possible if I ever wanted to do it is another, it's a great, it's a good feeling.
Yeah. And now let me go back to Monstro a second, because I was looking up the band and trying to find out as much as I could about the band. And I noticed on your Facebook that there were a lot of pictures that were in reference to the band Kiss. There was people backstage. Yeah. So being a huge Kiss fan myself, going all the way back to the Dynasty tour, I've seen him 50 sometimes in concert. What is it about Kiss? And are you a Kiss fan?
I absolutely am. And maybe that's one of the things that drew us together. Like Bevan Davies, who's a drummer, is a huge Kiss fan.
Right.
And we had a lot of history together. And then Juan Montoya, who came in, that's like his dream band. He's just a Kiss fanatic. So I'm not sure the reasoning of why we keep coming together with all these Kiss fans. Like Vinnie Paul is an unbelievable Kiss fan.
Of course.
So that's always like the common denominator in all bands that I've been in, it seems like, was Kiss. And of course they were an early influence for me as well. So
the tour. The tour right now is slated to run till the end of March. Is there anything set up for the summer? Are you doing the festival dates in Europe? Are you getting on a package and doing arenas? What's the plan for touring?
Yeah, that's all being discussed right now, and it's definitely going to happen. We have a couple offers for some festivals in Europe now, so hopefully if we can lock those in, we can build a tour around that, whether it be off festivals or off dates with another band or whatever it is. The plan is definitely to get back over there in the summertime, and then a lot of the festival we had a lot of them in the U.S. last summer, but a lot of the ones that we didn't, we're hoping to hit those and then either team up with another band and do like a headline or co-headline tour, or if an arena tour comes out, like we just got off with Volbeat and Five Finger Death Punch, which was full on arena rock tour. It was awesome. So we're hoping to just do a little of everything basically and hit a lot of places that we've hit before, and then try and get into some markets where Hellyeah's never been before. Like Hellyeah's never been to South America for some strange reason. So that's like a goal to get down there, and then to Japan, Australia, and just take it all over.
That is an extremely strange market to skip. South America is sort of the bastion of heavy metal these days. If you're not playing South America, you're sort of missing out.
Yeah, and the band feels the same way. It's just been a weird timing thing, and nothing, the right tour hasn't come up, or it's come up at the wrong time, and it just hasn't happened for whatever reason. But that is definitely a goal for 2015 is to take it down there, whether it be a festival or just us or with someone else. Not sure how it's going to happen, but I feel confident that it will.
Social media plays an important role in marketing bands these days. What's your take on the whole social media thing? Does a band really need to have a Facebook page? Do you really need to Twitter? And if so, is it really important that the actual members get on it? Or can you just sort of have a team do it for you?
I think it's more important for the band to do it, because I've seen it both ways. Right. I've always been, in my past bands, I've been involved in it. Like, I felt like I had to answer every question, and people are emailing. And that just seems like something that digs a lot deeper to people, and really touches people more, actually talking with a band member rather than just talking to someone at management who's just running it, or just running the web guy and just putting up updates and not really connecting with the fans, just putting info out there. So I'm absolutely all for it, and we're actually all trying to get the entire band more involved and making posts here and there. But everything that comes on our Facebook page, 90% of it is directly from the band.
Which is
and people appreciate that, and you can tell on tour, like we're meeting people at meet and greets, and then they bring up a conversation like, "Yeah, you answered me about whatever," like just random things. It really means a lot to fans.
But it does create a connection.
It does, yeah. Which never happened when I was younger. Like, you barely get to meet anybody that you wanted to go see, much less talk to them online or something. So.
Yeah, I remember being a kid, and I wrote a letter over down to O'Coin Management to Eric Carr, and he answered me, and that was the greatest moment of my life, right?
Absolutely.
And now it happens every day on Facebook and Twitter. Just quickly back to Blood for Blood, the new album. Tell me a little bit about your thoughts on making albums these days. Is it actually important? Because we all know people go to iTunes or Amazon, they pick up the one song they like, the two songs they like, and they ignore the other 8 or 9. Is it a lost art? Does it matter if you put out 12 songs, or can you just make 3?
I think it matters to us. Like, we're all old school guys. We all grew up with vinyl and having artwork and holding it in your hands and looking at it. So that's the way we all feel. It's never even been a conversation of, let's just release a couple songs and see what happens. Like, we're full album guys here, and that's what we're always going to do. I think it's very important to me. I think it still is, and I feel bad for a newer generation that only, like, you look at iTunes and you see like the 2 top downloaded songs, and then the rest of it doesn't exist to some people. But then you really have the real fans. That's why we like reaching out to fans online saying, what songs do you want to hear? And they start digging deep to songs that, that have never been played live by Hellyeah, or like they've named almost every song on the new record. So it's definitely a good feeling knowing other people out there are appreciating what we're doing, is just like as much as we do. Because we're just as big a fans as anyone else. So we can really relate to all that.
Yeah, but do you think you could have as much success by just doing 3 songs and going on tour?
I think maybe you could. I don't think we could, because that's just not where we come from. But obviously, that seems to be the big thing with pop artists these days. They'll have, they'll put out a single and then go on tour, and then put out a single and go on tour, which, good for them if that's all. If it's that way, it seems like it's only about the money. Just write a song, put it out, and then go tour on it and make whatever you're gonna do on it. It seems like it's more about the money, less about the music.
Chad Gray obviously was the lead singer of Mudvayne for many years. I've had a chance to see a bunch of Mudvayne shows in my life. They always had a very visual aspect with, all silver makeup or whatever they were doing. And of course, we talked about Kiss before with the whole visual thing. For Hellyeah, in terms of going out on tour, how important does the whole visual presentation play in the overall show and in the impact?
I think more visually for us is more of the energy on stage, because this band it's on fire right now. Everybody, it's like it's something to see. Like I haven't seen a whole lot of videos of the band from the past several tours. I did see some, and I think it's just pretty amazing seeing the band now and the band the way it used to be. Like it's something to see without a lot of production. We don't have any production actually. We have a backdrop and some scrims up there by the amps, and that's it. So we basically putting more of the focus onto just the music and energy involved. So it'd be great to do something else, pyro or whatnot, but we haven't really never really discussed it, and it's not a big part of what the band's all about. I'm not saying it won't ever happen, just to keep things fresh and to spice it up, but as of now, it's just 5 dudes up there going balls out.
Yeah. I've got a couple more questions for you. You were part of the band Screw for a moment in time. Usually, hugely influential in terms of industrial metal. What was it like to be in that band?
I thought at that point it was the best band that I'd been in. It was the most fun I've ever had. Unfortunately, I came in towards the end of that band, so I was there till the last day when 2 dudes quit and everything just fell apart. And then I was out in Austin, just like, what the fuck is going on now?
What now?
Yeah, exactly. So, and that was in 96 or 97 or something like that. So it was a great experience. I loved it. I'm glad I was a part of it for the period that I was. And yeah, still, Adam Grossman is I still keep in touch with him, and he's actually doing some stuff with Screw again, writing music and producing some songs and putting the record out. So that's great for him. It was a really good time.
Between Monstro, Blood Simple, Screw, Hellyeah, they're all metal, but they're all different kinds. It's not exactly the same thing. As the bass player coming in there, how do you adapt your sound for that, or how is it for you? Do you have to practice more for one band or another? Just tell me a little bit about being a bass player in these different sort of musical styles.
I guess not as much, because Blood Simple, I was there for all the writing of the songs. So I was there from the ground up. And the Monstro was the same way. We were in a rehearsal room coming up with our own parts and just throwing out different ideas. So it was definitely different in Hellyeah. Luckily I was familiar with a lot of the back catalog just from, loving the band and touring with them in the past. But it was a little overwhelming at first. Like, well, here's the records. Here's whatever, at the time it was 12 or 13 or however many songs, not knowing what we're going to do live and what songs to learn first. So it was just like thrown at me. I was like, all right, I just got to sit down, just take it one day at a time and just dig into the first song and go down the list. So, basically I learned it as it was played first. And then the more I practiced it, the more I put my own feel into it.
But with the different,
and then more to play live, even more so, because then I'm really more into it and really getting more out of it and feeling more of the energy and more passionate about it. So it's been fun.
But I'm also thinking.
Last question, guys. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm also thinking though, does your gear change? Do you have to use different strings, different basses, different amps, or?
No, I don't really.
Okay.
My sound is my sound, and that's what every band that I've been in. It's just a big part of it. So the bass on the record is a dirtier, heavier sound, and that just happens to be really close to my tone, a little bit different. But no, I don't change gear. I might I don't even really use effects. It's more of just
Okay.
straight fingers on bass to the amp. So I just do what I do.
Okay, so the music changes, but the player doesn't. You're just
Absolutely,
Kyle.
yep.
Okay. Perfect, Kyle. This has been an absolute pleasure. I certainly look forward to seeing Hellyeah on tour. And
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's a great pleasure. And there you have it, folks. My interview with Kyle Sanders of the band Hellyeah. Their new album is Blood for Blood. Joel, have you had a chance to listen to Blood for Blood by any means?
I started digging in on these guys when you mentioned that Kyle was going to be on the show and you wanted me to be a part of it. And first off, man, just like he's another guy. He just comes off as like so real.
Yep.
And you can tell why these guys are where they are with their careers, because it just sounds like Kyle's like, he's not about like trying to write hits or make hits. It's like very much about the music and the fans of him. There's like a bunch of comments you made in your interview that really reveal that attitude. And I just think that's like the key to having a connection with the fans and having success. So kudos to him for coming off like such a true guy in the interview. I think it was really well done.
Well, I think both John and Kyle are very much about the music. We've spoken off the record about bands that some of these days just go through the motions for the paycheck, and that's just not John and Kyle. It really just isn't. Yeah,
it's obvious. In me going and checking out Hellyeah, these guys are throwing down, man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a pretty diverse sound too. I mean, checking out, obviously Moth is like the tune that's doing really, really well for them. I went and checked that out. I know that broke top 10 on rock radio for them, and it was over 2 million views on YouTube, I think, by the time I checked it out. And what a cool tune, cool melody. And so these guys they're throwing down like the heavy riffage, but there's melody and cool hooks, and then there's some of it is just like just absolutely fierce, man. The Demons in the Dirt tune is just like totally killer. So I was checking out Hellyeah all day, and I was like, man, this is a great band. So I thank you for having me on this episode and turning me on to some great stuff. It was really a great education for me.
It's funny. Hellyeah is another one of those bands that doesn't get a lot into the conversation when you're talking about rock bands. And yet, when you look at what they've done in 2014, U.S. hard rock chart, #1. Rock albums just in general, #7. And in the Billboard Top 200, the album was 18th. And I mean, the Top 200, you're going up against your Jay-Z's and your Mariah Carey's. And here's a band that made 18 in 2014, a hard rock band. Them and Seether, just,
Yeah, definitely worthy of a headlining tour. I'm sure their fans, I mean, this is 4 albums for them now with
Mm-hmm.
Blood for Blood. So it's like they're going to be able to go pretty deep in the set list, I think, and give the fans some songs they're maybe not able to hear when they're out with Five Finger Death Punch, right? Over like last fall or something like that. So this is obviously a great opportunity to go hear them and hear a lot of the tunes that you've been craving.
Yeah. So there you go. So there we have it, folks. My interviews with John Humphrey, of course, of Seether, and Kyle Sanders of Hellyeah. Joel, where can folks find you? What do we need to let them?
Oh man, do we need to spell my name? Okay, well you can if you go to joelhoekstra.com. That's JOEL HOEKSTRA. JoelHoekstra.com. You can link over to any of my social stuff from there, and I'm really good about getting back to people. So if you want to say hello, please, by all means, and hope to see you all with Whitesnake next year. This year. Now I forget it's 2015 already here.
Well, hey, next year too. I hope you're there in 2016 as well. I'm very much looking forward to it, and of course, when the Whitesnake machine cranks up and is in full force, I think we should do another Whitesnake themed interview. And I think what I'll do is I'll call John from Seether and have him be the co-host on the Joel episode. That would be fun.
Oh, that'd be great, man. Yeah, I think that would be an honor. I think the album, I don't really have release dates or anything like that, but I know it's kind of early-ish spring, and I think we're heading out shortly thereafter. So I'll have to give you the release dates as I kind of learn them. But
yeah, I look forward to it.
Yeah.
And I really wish that at some point some promoter or some festival would take a band like Whitesnake and Seether and Hellyeah and put you on the same bill, just so the fans can hear just all the different types of music. It doesn't have to be the all hair metal festival or the all,
I think not, and it's really obvious when you listen to both of these guys talk in the respective interviews you did with them. It's like, well, I could sit down with this guy and easily get along with this guy. We're totally cut from the same cloth, and they're just professional musicians. They have their heads on straight. These guys are not egomaniacs or lost in space rock stars. It's like just good guys who want to make the fans happy and make a living doing this. And what's the best job in the world, man?
Well, when you think about it, we've got a drummer with John, a bass player with Kyle, and a guitarist with you. I'm sensing super group here.
There you go.
We're going to have to put all three of you together. But, always a pleasure, by the way, speaking with you. And thank you for doing this. It's great to have co-hosts that normally it's just...
No, dude, it was really, the pleasure was all mine. It was great because I know how well informed you are going in on your interviews. So it was really a good challenge for me. I thought, all right, I got to know what I'm talking about with every aspect of these two guys. So in checking them out, it's just come off like such good dudes and great musicians, and both of these bands kick ass. So it was really fun for me to be a part of.
Yeah, absolutely. So remember, folks, go check out Seether with Papa Roach on tour now. New album is Isolate and Medicate. And Hellyeah, well, you know what? They make it nice and easy. It's a Blood for Blood album and a Blood for Blood tour. So check it out. It's coming to town soon. Thank you.